What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Poke Office. My name is Colin. Today's video, I want you to join me for a little pre-grading session before I send in cards to PSA. So I'm going to walk you through what I do, what steps I take to pre-grade my cards before sending them into PSA. So it brings me to my kind of first point of the video, which is I'm not one of these people who just like bulk submits cards to PSA and hopes for the best. I do my homework on cards that I want to submit to PSA and cards that I don't want to submit to PSA. I do my homework on cards that, hey, is the centering good or is it not probably going to meet the standard? Are the corners and edges good or are they probably not going to meet the standard? So I'm doing some homework on like every card that I send to PSA, and my situation is a little bit unique as other people give me cards to send in as well, so that we all save on shipping, because shipping to and from Canada to California for PSA gets a little expensive. Plus we got to pay duties and taxes over the border now, which is just absolutely insane. But it can be a pretty costly endeavor, so I want to do my homework and make sure that I know that I have a good chance of getting a 10 on most of these cards. So number one, I think it's really important to ask yourself this question: why am I submitting these cards to PSA? Are you doing it for an investing purpose, or are you doing it for a collecting purpose? If you're doing it for a collecting purpose, then, I mean, you can probably live with the cost of getting your card, put it in that plastic casing and sealed and protected, and whether it gets a 9 or a 10 or an 8 or a set, hopefully not, depending on if it's modern or vintage, you can probably live with it. However, if you are doing it for an investing standpoint, trying to make some money, in modern cards specifically, I'm not talking about vintage, modern cards, almost exclusively, if you do not get a PSA Gem Mint 10 on this card, you're basically just going to be breaking even if you get a 9. Otherwise, it's going to be a loss of money grading if you get anywhere below a 9. And sometimes even as a 9, you end up losing a little bit of money. Like a 9, sometimes it sells for the same price as raw, so you're actually out the $15 that it costs to grade, plus the shipping and blah, 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 blah. So for me, that's like legitimately $30 Canadian per card that I send. But if you do get a 10, so that's why doing this homework right up front is really important, then sometimes you can like 2 and 3 times your money. So that's like the biggest first question. Do this before you send your cards to PSA. Why am I sending this card to PSA? Is it just because I want to get this card part of my collection and I want it graded to be protected in like a slab? Then the grade doesn't really matter. Then it's just like a cool collection piece. But if you are trying to do it for investment, then it's really important to do the homework. So that brings me to point number 2, the homework, which actually is going to be point number 3, because I have one thing to say before that. The next thing, if you're doing it for an investment standpoint, then you got to do some homework to actually determine which cards are really, really good for grading. So I actually just did a video about this, so I'm not going to talk too much in detail on this video. I'll link it right here, You can click up here if you want it, or it'll be down in the description to watch a video where I kind of looked at a bunch of the top cards out of Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, and which cards, if you send in for grading and it gets a Gem Mint 10, will make you the most amount of money. Some of the ones that I can remember off the top of my head were the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved and the Charizard from Obsidian Flames. So if you have some of these cards, that's amazing. But then that video is more geared towards like going to Facebook Marketplace and finding these cards and buying these cards, buying cards to grade them and then sell them as like a riskier investment option for you. But if you just have these cards, these are good ones to get graded, because whether it is for your collection or for your investment, if you get that Gem Mint 10, like you're adding your value a lot if you get Gem Mint 10s on some of these bigger cards. So that's kind of cool. So especially on the investing piece, like do your homework, go check. There's sites like Price Charting. There's sites or apps like Collector App and TCG, and there's all sorts of different sites where you can check pricing. eBay last solds, see what the Mint 9 cards are selling for, see what the Gem Mint 10 cards are selling for, see what the raw cards are selling for. Is it actually worth your time? Because sending a submission into PSA does take some time. Like right now, I want to say I have in between 40 and 50 cards that I'm going to send in this next submission that I'm kind of preparing. that's going to take me some time. Like, I mean, let's just get into it now. So I'm going to flip the screen around. So here we are out front here. I got most of the cards done already, but I left a couple here. So these are a few that still need to be looked at a little bit closer. So I'm going to choose this Umbreon V from Evolving Skies. What a beautiful card it is. This is the next piece of homework. It's really important, in my opinion, to do your homework yourself on centering and on like condition of the card. So right off the bat, I just am looking at this card and it's like, ugh, this one is off center. Top border way bigger than the bottom border. Left to right even doesn't look perfect to me. So I'm thinking to myself, this one is already like giving me the spidey senses that maybe it shouldn't be sent to PSA. The back looks pretty good, maybe a little off center, but PSA, if I reckon what the site says, I think the back is allowed like 65-35, maybe even 70-30 percentage-wise change on centering. On the back, the front is like 60-40 max, and this does not look good enough to me. But there's a way to check. So I got this Passive Paradise card centering tool. There you can see it right there. I got it on Amazon. I think I paid 20 Canadian, so it's got to be like 10 to 15 bucks American. I'll put a link down below in the description. Just an FYI, I make a couple cents commission if you buy it from Amazon. So if you want to support the channel and get something cool, you should do that. Okay, Passive Paradise card centering tool. Choose the Pokemon option because then it actually comes with the rounded corners. The non-Pokemon one comes with a square corner. So here, all you do, you take the card, you put it behind the centering tool, and you try and line it up. This is hard to do on camera, so I'm going to do my best. It's looking okay. Okay, so now if I can zoom in as much as I can, I recognize that my yellow case from my phone is definitely visible here, so hard to see. But you can see that these, like, it goes from solid line to dotted line to solid line to dotted line, and each line has a number attached to it. So that dashed line right there has the number 2 attached to it. The top border is like kind of a little over the 2, I would say, right there. Okay, now we go to the bottom, and it's having a hard time focusing, trying to make it look good. All right, it's like in between 1 and 2, so that's not a good sign for me. That's not a good sign. I want it pretty close to the same number. Left to right, on the other hand, I mean, I think we're a little bit, there we go. Okay, so left to right, that left one is pretty close to the 2, so that's looking pretty nice. And here, pretty close to the 2. Like, I think the left to right would probably pass, but top to bottom is just like screaming at me that I don't think this is necessarily a good card to grade if we're only looking for like a profitable grade here. So this Umbreon, my personal opinion would be to pass this one. I wouldn't be willing to take the risk. So let's try one more. Got a Roaring Moon here. The card I'm chasing from Paradox Rift, have not been able to pull this one. So absolutely crazy. Centering on face value actually looks really, really good. Okay. So we're just gonna take a quick look. See if I can line it up correctly. So that top border, I don't know if the grader, no, I'm a little, hold on as I get it all sorted out. There we go. So top border is kind of what? Just under the 2 maybe. And bottom border is right on the 2. So that one is like on the verge, but I think that would probably still make the grade with that 40-60 grading. Same with left to right. This one is like in between the 1 and the 2, it looks like. This side is on the 2. So, I mean, it's not perfect, but I'm also like, it's hard to see on camera, so I'm not 100% convinced. This card, when I looked at it off camera, was looking really, really good. However, here's the problem. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but as you start to look at some of the edges, there's a little nick up in the top left, and I'm not sure that the camera is going to pick it up. You can kind of maybe see it right there as the light reflects off of it. So I kind of took a closer look, and the cool thing is, I'll actually grab it here. The Passive Paradise centering tool actually comes with this loop or magnifying glass. I don't know if loop is the right way to pronounce it, but let's see if if my phone camera can actually pick this up here. So we'll just bring this nice and close, and it kind of just like really magnifies the card. Really good for finding print lines or finding like discrepancies on the actual card. Again, camera is having a bit of a hard time picking that one up, but let's see. So maybe it's good. This one is definitely one where I am going to be taking a closer look off camera. So this is the type of homework that I'm doing. Like, I am spending on a really mint card, I'm spending 30 seconds on it. On like one like this, I'm probably spending 2 or 3 minutes on it. Like, it's gonna take me some time to look at these cards, because again, I don't want to just send it and hope for the best. I want to give my cards the best chance possible to get those Gem Mint 10s. So that leads me to the next phase of preparation, is that I want to have all my cards in card savers, because that's the way that PSA wants you to have them. So here's kind of like a stack that I've currently been working on. There's some bangers in here, so be aware. We got the Mew. So card savers are just these, if you've never seen them before, kind of like top loaders, but a lot more flimsy to them, so it gives the card a little bit of room to bend. These ones are Vault X, I believe, and to be honest with you, these ones are really, really small. So they're quite hard to actually get the card into. If you get a different brand, like this is a Card Saver 1, look at the size difference. Pretty significant. It's like probably half an inch wider. So the card slides into these Card Saver 1s very easily compared to these ones. I'm just kind of trying to get rid of my stock of these ones because I must have ordered the wrong size. Anyways, they still fit, just a little bit more finicky to get them in there. Anyways, so you put them all in card savers. I'll show you the stack here. Just absolute gems. Oh man. Master Ball, Pikachu Master Ball from 151. Are you kidding me? Iron Valiant, another Roaring Moon. Unreal. Okay, so here's the thing. They gotta all be in card savers, and then specifically for me, because I have a few people grading with me this time, I need to put them in a correct order so that like they're all together. Then that way when I actually go to the PSA site, I can input these cards, and then I'm gonna actually take like the number that PSA generates per card, and I'm gonna put it in my own spreadsheet so everyone knows that I'm doing it legit. So like if this Mew is someone's card and then the other Mew in here is someone else's card, I'm gonna know right away when I put that into PSA that this one is person A's and the other one is person B's, if that makes any sense. So to answer a question, can you submit the same card to in the same submission for multiple people? Of course you can, because PSA generates its own unique identifier per card right when you do the submission on their form. So it's pretty easy to notice. So I don't have any fault in that. Like, I am really upfront. So if people are grading cards with me, I share that spreadsheet that I make with them and say, hey, here's your cards. These are the unique identifiers for them. So they know that if I have a Pikachu with gray felt hat and they have a Pikachu with gray felt hat, this is their Pikachu with gray felt hat. This is my group Pikachu with gray felt hat. Because I don't want to be like that person who, oh, the PSA graded cards came back. I don't know which one's which, so I'm going to take the Gem Mint 10 one, you're going to take the Mint 9 one. Like, that's not how it works. Pretty easy to take track of. Okay, here's the last piece of the pie that I wanted to talk to you about today before signing off, is it worth you sending cards to PSA yourself? The reason I ask this, because for me, I do it mostly for the content for YouTube. Otherwise, I'd probably find like a local card store, or I'd find like a dealer who lives kind of near me, and I'd probably just send my cards to him or her and then let them deal with it, and I'll pay the fee to them. So there's lots of different PSA like dealers or graders, and you kind of just like send them your cards. They get the bulk rates, they pay for the PSA membership, so kind of just makes it easier. So here's the downside to doing it yourself. Right now, every year I have to pay $99 US for the PSA membership. I mean, I don't have to, but that gets me access to the TCG bulk discount purchase rate, which is $15 per graded card. So that's really good, especially if you're sending in multiple submissions a year. Definitely worth it to do the $99 one. So for me, worth it. And now I've kind of almost built up a little bit of a clientele with people who live near me and friends, so they send their cards in through me as well. The other downside, though, is that TCG bulk rate comes with like a minimum of 20 cards that you need to send. So you can't just send your 5 favorite cards in. You got to build up, wait till you have at least 20, and then to send it in. The next thing, and this is like maybe a little more Canadian specific than anything, but shipping is really expensive. So you have to pack up your cards. You got to bubble wrap them. Like PSA comes with a whole video on how to do that, which I'll get into in the next video where I'm actually doing the PSA submission. But you send it out. So usually for me from Canada, shipping costs, like after I insure it for the thousands of dollars worth of cards that's in the box, it cost me 50 or 60 Canadian dollars to ship it down to California. Then PSA ships back, and I have to pay that cost as well, which is usually like $50 to $70 Canadian, because cross-border shipping is ridiculous. It's absurd. Anyways, and then Canada just started charging duties on stuff like that, so that's an additional like $3 to $5 per card that we're paying. So overall, the cost for me to grade cards in Canada, roughly in that like $25 to $30 range, depending on how many cards are part of that thing. The other side of it is that you can just go to a local game store. There's lots that do this, and they do monthly submissions or weekly or however many they do submissions to PSA, and you just give them your card. I've never done this before, but I'm assuming they just like give you a record that they have your card, you pay for it, and then they'll send it to PSA. They'll deal with all the pre-grading stuff, though I have a feeling they probably wouldn't pre-grade your cards. That's still your homework to do, not them. But they'd send it to PSA. They'd deal with the shipping and the customs and all that kind of stuff if you're not from the United States. And then they'd get it back to you, and then they'd ship it to you, or they would tell you to come pick it up. So if you don't have like bulk cards to send to PSA, probably a much easier option. Then you don't need to buy the $99 membership, and you can just submit 1 card at a time or 2 cards at a time, which is a pretty nice option. So that's another thing to weigh. So anyways, I've been rambling for a long time now. Hopefully this was a little bit helpful. I'll leave the links down in the description for like that card centering tool on Amazon. I always buy the card savers on Amazon as well. You might be able to find them cheaper elsewhere, but Amazon ships overnight, basically. Like I get them tomorrow, which is amazing. So that's worth it to me. And yeah, just I think it's really important to do your homework. Make sure to check your cards, especially if you're like wanting the Gem Mint 10s. You can pre-grade your cards yourself and greatly increase your chances of getting the Gem Mint 10s by only sending in cards that you think have a really good chance. So I have had like a really, really high success rate. I think my first submission I got 29 out of 35. Last one I got, I don't even know, 28 out of 32 or something like that, where, I mean, my numbers might be off a little bit, but I've had a really, really high success rate of getting Gem Mint 10s, but I do quite a bit of prep work for that. So stay tuned. My next video is going to be about like actually getting into the PSA website, doing that and putting all the cards in there in the correct order, packing it up. It's a little bit of a process, a little bit of a learning curve, which is, I guess, is another like con. If you're doing it yourself, you have to do all the work. Whereas if you send it to a local game store, they do most of the work for you. You just give them the card. So And that's going to do it for me at the Poke Office. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it helpful. Hit me up in the comments down below if you have any questions. I'll try and answer as many as I can, and I'll include them in another video for sure. And if it was helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're on the way to 10,000 subscribers. All thanks to you guys. I appreciate it so much. My name is Colin. This is the Poke Office. Peace.